It's the dead of winter. Across the barren fields lies a thin layer of white, powdery snow. Amongst the silence of this cold evening, a cry breaks out and a woman runs for her life. An intruder has broken into her house, and he's not there for a late-night conversation. In the blink of an eye, she vanishes. No one can pinpoint where she has gone except for a strange former priest who has visions of her fateful whereabouts. Everyone thinks he's lying. Only two former partners believe this man has some truth to his story. I want to believe. This is It Records. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am one of your hosts, Matt Johnson, coming back to you live over the airwaves here for the It Records podcast this week. Joined with, as always, by the lovely and magnanimous Lindsay Clark. Lindsay Clark is with us, and also Peter. Peter's here too.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to the podcast.
Wow. I used to be lovely and magnanimous,
You
but
know.
I guess I'm not anymore.
Things change.
I know. They do, Pete. People change. People change, Pete.
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying, you're a different man now.
I don't like what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I used to do that quite a bit. I used to give you a warm welcome every episode.
Yay.
I can go back to it if you need that, Pete. If you need that sort of introduction to the show, by all means, I am happy to do it.
No, I don't need it. So, we watched the X-Files movie, I Want to Believe, if you didn't pick that up from your not so subtle hint that you gave everyone.
That's true. I kind of laid it on thick there at the end of the intro.
I mean, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
It works.
I basically said the title, and
It-
all I
it
left
is-
out was X-Files.
It is like 75%.
Nothing wrong with that.
I had a vision. I see a woman's face. I hear dogs barking. They're out there.
I called you in because I valued your belief in this phenomenon. I'm not the most popular girl at the FBI right now.
Scully?
Mulder?
Father Joe claims a psychic connection.
So you believe in these sort of things?
Let's just say I want to believe.
Don't give up.
You see them?
I see eyes staring out. My visions were God's work.
Maybe it's not God doing the sending.
What do you see? Father Joe?
I'm done chasing monsters in the dark.
It's here.
I need you in this with me.
It's here. It's here. Here!
I'm a huge fan of the show. You two
I barely heard
have
of
not
it.
seen the show, is that correct?
I mean, I think I heard
would
of
never
it,
heard of
but it
X-Files
was like one of those
before?
things that I just like knew about in passing. Never really thought about it. So yeah, this is totally new for me.
Sure. I feel like when it was really popular, we were all pretty young. Like it was like, and it was a little more adult, like 'cause it was like around the same time as Buffy. You know, Buffy's a little younger.
Oh, Buffy, what's
by,
that?
Like a year. Buffy like came out in
Something
like
like
what,
that.
99?
That sounds about right. You know, I want to say like 97. Doesn't matter.
And like Buffy's style and like X-Files style are like pretty similar. Like they have like Monster of the Week episodes and like You're Right 97. When was X-Files? X-Files must be older than that then.
I think, well, X-Files, I believe, went off the air as a TV show originally.
In
It came back
2002.
in 98, I thought it went off the air.
1993.
That's when it
That's
started?
when it started?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we were very young. I was 2.
It's like barely alive.
I had older cousins that watched it, and I think my dad liked it, but like I don't remember him watching it.
Well, it was a pretty big show. I remember growing up. It was on Fox, correct? That's where it was aired
Yeah.
every week.
Yeah, it was a
And-
Fox show.
I never really have watched it. I wouldn't say I'm a fan. I don't dislike it, but I've seen like episodes here and there. And they were on TV or reruns or on, I think they're on Netflix a while back.
They
So I've seen
were.
'em.
They got taken off recently, but they're on Hulu, which is how I'm watching the newest series because I never watched it growing up. Really, maybe a few episodes like with my cousins, and then in college, especially when my last semester, which was a summer semester, so I had a lot of free time. I started watching X-Files and then been slowly watching it. Like I'm still watching it in the first go currently, like 5 years later. Because I went like on and off, on and off, on and off.
There's like 11 seasons too.
Yeah. And then like, I'm on the final season right now. But there's going to be another one.
Wow, really? There's going to be another
Pretty-
season?
Pretty sure. I don't.
Do you know if it's on like Fox still, or is they going to
Yeah.
air? It's on Fox.
It's still on Fox. I mean, I haven't finished the most recent season, but like, I know David Duchovny is like super down to do X-Files more, which is really funny because he left in the original run. And is it Gillian Anderson? Is that how you say her name? Is it Gillian? She doesn't want to do it anymore. She's done.
Moved past it.
Yeah, I mean, she's got other great work that she's doing. David Duchovny, not so much.
Yeah, I even read when she was doing this film, which we'll get into in a minute, is it was hard for her to get back into that character just for this movie. Let alone that they've done new seasons now too, where she's been back in.
Yeah,
in character.
two seasons.
I think she compared it to, like, she's thought it would be like riding a bike, getting back in character, but she was like, actually, it was like trying to ride a fucking unicycle.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
What were you gonna say, Pete?
I don't remember. It wasn't important. Oh yeah, I remember now. This is actually the second X-Files movie that they did. I was gonna say like, the reason why I didn't say let's do the first one is because you have to watch the show to really understand it. It's like, I want to say it's like the season 6 and bridge to season 7. It's like a kind of an inner season movie, and that one's really good. I really like that one.
But it doesn't work so much as a standalone.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is more of a standalone movie, which is why I found it more appealing for the podcast, and it's like more horror driven than the other movie, I think. But this one kind of has a negative outlook, I would say, amongst fans because they've waited so long for the movie. It was like in development hell for like 5 years. Like it was supposed to come out like right after the show ended, and people kept waiting and waiting, and like it was supposed to be like this big movie, like to advance like the plot. Like another like they call it, I can't remember the name what they call it. Like they have like Monster of the Week episodes, and then they have like the storyline episodes, and they have a name for it, and I can't think of the name right now. The Conspiracy? No, that's not right. Anyways, it was supposed to like continue the mythology of the show, and then he changed it to like more of a Monster of the Week type story, and fans were pretty disappointed by that.
That they chose that sort of format for this new movie, that it was the Monster of the Week instead of a continuation.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, because there's like a huge like overarching like plot throughout all the seasons. Like they have like 3 to 5 episodes per season that advances like the overall like alien mythology of the show. And they're all, I would say, pretty much all those episodes are very, very good. And then like the Monster of the Week episodes are more of your hokey episodes that are really fun, and some of them not so good. They're kind of like your filler, as you would say.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get, since you guys haven't seen the show, how like your initial thoughts of seeing this standalone movie, how did, like, what's your outlook of X-Files only seeing this movie?
Based on the movie alone, I thought that it was pretty easy to follow as somebody that had no prior experience or like information about the characters of the show or anything. So I think they succeeded in that, making it, you know, a decent watch for somebody who had never, like I said, watched any of it before. So I would say I think that worked very well in that element.
What about you, Matt?
No, I'd agree with that. As like a standalone film, if you had no idea what the X-Files were, it works fine as a standalone movie because it starts off like any real thriller might, which I think it falls into like supernatural thriller, horror thriller type movie where it's two partners who are like out of the force or whatever, and they got to come back in for one last hoorah. It kind of gives you that setup.
Yeah.
So that might happen in any thriller. You don't need to see the complete seasons before that, if you will. So I thought that was good. But then I'll add the second element of, I'm aware of the show, and I'm not a big fan. I don't know the whole mythos of the show, but I always kind of felt that there was like a supernatural alien element to it. And I was kind of waiting for that in this film. And maybe that's what you meant, that some fans were disappointed that it was like the Monster of the Week instead of a continuation of what they've seen in the show. I guess I was kind of also waiting for that, knowing what I knew about the show. If that makes sense.
You guys want to get into plot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's get into that. Let's get into plot. I can start out just a basic synopsis of the film, and then I'll kind of talk into Act 1 of X-Files I Want to Believe. We've talked about how Mulder and Scully have worked at the FBI as partners for years, and that's sort of the show, but now they're out of the FBI at the start of this film. They've begun new careers. Scully works as a staff physician at a Catholic hospital. That's where we see her, and her focus is on a young patient with an incurable brain disease. Administration wants to give up on him, and Scully has formed a special bond with this boy, and she does not. Meanwhile, we meet Mulder. His focus is more on newspaper clipping articles and throwing pencils into the ceiling of his home and writing about the paranormal. But then they are soon brought together as partners when a special case requires them to have Mulder's experience and Scully as well in the past. These body parts start showing up in the snow, is what we see. And there's a strange former priest who's sort of having these psychic visions. He's kind of seeing where these body parts are being laid or where they're being buried. And the FBI is with him, trying to uncover where a missing FBI agent went. There's a missing FBI agent, and this priest says he knows where she is. Some force is reaching out to him, and he believes it to be to be God speaking out to him and telling him where these people are being buried and where they're being held. And that's where I would say Scully and Mueller are brought in to kind of basically see if what he's saying is true, if he has any psychic abilities or he's making it up and is maybe an accomplice. So that's sort of the synopsis, and I would say Act 1 of kind of what starts off the movie. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I would say Act 2 kind of like kicks off with like the search of like the missing FBI agent. Like I know that kind of touches Act 1 a little bit, but like it's like kind of like following the any leads they have, which is almost none. They like really can't solve this mystery out at all. Like they have no idea what the fuck's going on. And they start following like the visions that the priest has, and they kind of follow that lead, and it kind of leads to like a dead end. And then like they start to break the case a little bit because of Mulder, and like Scully wants to back out and focus on the boy, and then she's like telling him to like kind of give up, and just put that to rest. Like they can figure it out, and like he's having like kind of like maybe like an identity crisis at that point, because and like he's been with the X-Files. Like the X-Files is like he didn't create the X-Files. This is a minor spoiler for the show. He was like he was like brought in to the X-Files, but like he pretty much made it his own. Like obviously like when you think of that program you think of Mulder, because he's the reason why it stuck around as long as it did. And his nickname was Spooky in the show because of his beliefs.
But during the time of this show, it's supposed to be said that it doesn't exist anymore, right? It's like that department is gone from the FBI. Is that right?
Yes. So that happens like in later seasons. Like you can kind of see it start to to dwindle, and you see, and like this is kind of like the aftermath of it ending. And I feel like the second act, it's always the thick of it, of the movie. I always feel like I have a hard time summarizing the thick of the movie. But like you see like the captures like that they're looking for, and they're like doing fucking weird experiments on them that I really didn't really follow what was going on a lot of the time. And you had some guy that was like a black market like organ like runner. He would like run organs to like hospitals, but then he would find ways to like, I don't know, target nurses. I was really confused by this aspect. That kind of lost me. But then like you get the chase of the guy, and then he kills one of the agents, not like Mulder or Scully, but like from like the other team of the FBI that like they can't figure it out. They needed the X-Files. Mm-hmm. That's my synopsis of Act 2.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a pretty dramatic third act happening here. That's like following the death of that FBI agent. Mulder kind of starts following the dude that's kind of, the ringleader of all of this with the organs and selling them on the black market, I think is what we decided what was happening. So that guy kind of runs him off the road, Mulder, but he ends up surviving that attack, and then continues to follow the suspect, attracting the attention of the two-headed dog. So everybody kind of is aware that he's closing in on them, and that's when they discover the Eastern European medical team killing people and stealing their organs to keep the suspect's husband alive. It's really crazy when you see like this severed head being like they're trying to transport it on somebody else's body. So that's pretty freaky. And so that was the second woman who had been abducted by the suspect. I don't know how to say his name. Yeah, so we're just gonna call him.
I don't either.
Yeah, just skip along. We'll give him a name.
Yeah, it's cool. We're just gonna call him Dude. So that's when Scully, who'd been trying to reach Mulder, wasn't getting any answer. She and Skinner save the day. They go in, they stop Mulder from getting killed by the suspect, and actually kills him. And then Skinner goes in and stops the team from what they've been doing. And then it had been revealed that the priest, who'd been kind of helping them, all this time with his visions, had been diagnosed with lung cancer, I believe it was, and so he actually died at the same time that they stopped the whole, I don't know how, like, they were trying to put the guy's head on the body, so as soon as, like, they stopped that, like, the priest died as well. So I was a little bit confused at the end when she had told Mulder that the priest had died. I wasn't sure if they were trying to imply that the priest was, in fact, an accomplice or not. What did you guys think?
I felt like they were trying to make it believe that there was a psychic connection, because the person who died, who they were putting all the human body parts on, was actually a previous altar boy, I believe, that the priest had molested, which is a backstory into the priest as well, and that's why they believe he had that psychic connection with him, because they had a past. I think they were trying to symbolize that there was some supernatural connection. The priest wasn't lying, and there was some force between them, and as soon as that person died, the priest died. So just because for the most part, I felt the movie was pretty grounded, and it felt like a thriller. That there was no aliens, there was no supernatural except what this priest was saying, and you just had to choose to believe him or not. And I think that was a little breadcrumb to say, it looks like it is. It looks like it really is some supernatural connection between the two of them.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like that theory.
I'm with you. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the movie, though.
Yeah, that's the whole movie.
That's the X-Files, about hour and 40 minutes. It's like a long episode of a TV show.
Yeah.
Because they're hour-long episodes, right? Normally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With commercials like 45, maybe 50.
As a horror podcast, talking about the horror significance of like the plot we just described, where would you guys feel in the subgenres of horror this X-Files movie would fall under?
It's more thriller, I think.
More thriller?
It's like 99% thriller, and then you got like 1% supernatural, like sprinkled in there, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be X-Files without the supernatural.
Mm-hmm. It has sort of those supernatural elements to it that could be, you didn't know if it was ghosts or aliens, but it really has, I think, that religious background. The priest and the callings from, could it be the great beyond? It's not so much the demonic possessions, but it has that religious sort of undertones to it with what the priest background. Or even, the Frankenstein monster realm, if you will. It's kind of submerged in there. Whereas you mentioned X-Files had the Monster of the Week episode. This would probably fall in there in that monster category, where they're trying to create a Frankenstein-esque monster. And that's even the headline at the end that Mulder pins up in his office. Is this the Frankenstein doctor is arrested trying to save so-and-so. So
yeah,
it has those sort of mad scientists, I guess, if you will, elements to the film. In the laboratory.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but that's a good comparison, like how it is very Frankenstein.
And it's got the isolated environments, which is always key to any sort of tension building in horror. Is you got that cold, barren fields of snow with miles around. You can't see anything, and you'll have like one house where no one's going to hear you scream. So it has that to it.
Well, with that, I
Cool.
think it's time to hit you guys with some trivia.
Lily was just gonna ask you that. Go for
Hit us
it.
up.
All right, so this actually, you probably came across this in your research, but for those of you out there that don't know, this was released on the 15th anniversary of The X-Files in July 2008, the 25th, it looks like. So that's kind of cool. And then that two-headed dog that I had mentioned before was a Rottweiler whose name was Oki. And they had like the second head, which is actually an appliance attached to the dog with Velcro. And I thought this was kind of adorable. They nicknamed it Doki. So, you know, whatever. That's cute. And then I guess like the plot was kept like under wraps. Like, you know, I guess it was really long awaited for a lot of the fans of the show. But they were so secretive about it, like while it was in production, that the actor that plays Skinner, that goes in with Scully and kind of derails the whole operation, he didn't even know that his character was in the movie until filming had been like well underway for some time. So that's kind of crazy.
I mean, I didn't even know he was in the movie until like he showed up, because I feel like he didn't show up until like the very end, right?
Yeah, apparently neither did he.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays a pretty big role in the series. He's kind of like, he's not like a main character, but like he's always on the side of like Mulder and Scully, because there's like huge other plays at work that like within like the government that are against them, and he's always been like their ally.
Like he comes in here and saves the day at the end during the
Yeah,
climax.
that's what he's good at. Good old Skinner. I love Skinner.
There was one interesting thing. It's not really trivia about the movie per se, but when we meet Mulder and he's got all those newspaper clippings up, he's on his wall, and he puts one up. I think it's a reference to like the Pear Labs at Princeton. Did you guys see that one?
No.
I don't remember.
You have to really pay attention to those newspaper clippings. But I just looked at it and I did research into it, and it was interesting where that was some, I believe, Harvard lab that had existed for like 40 years. And they had funding from the Defense Department that was supposed to look at like pilots who man planes, I believe, and this really any sort of big machinery like boats or really planes, I think, jets. And if in high pressure situations, where they have a lot of stress, if the electromagnetic field that that surrounds a person can increase to such a level that it would interrupt the electrical signals within the actual jet. So the person's electrical field would interfere with the machines they created and cause like a malfunction.
Oh wow!
And he was pinning up that the Defense Department had finally cut funding to it. And I think that was like a true lab, and something that also is kind of been a conspiracy theory and X-Files fans that they've been doing testings and other things about how humans interact with other electronic equipment. So that was just interesting that I found from doing some research on an actual news story that he had pinned up on his background wall.
Yeah, it's a nice little tidbit.
Yeah. Some set designer really went in on actual stories.
He was like so fucking stoked.
Yeah. I'm gonna put this story up and put this story up. It's in there for like half a second. Well, does anybody have a box office or budget for this movie? Was it a flop or a success?
I feel like I know. I didn't look up budget or box office. I feel like I know the answer.
All right, I got a budget here and I got box office.
Well, I know.
Give it a whirl?
I'm going. It was a flop. I don't know the budget. I'm gonna say it was 30 million.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna say it made 50 million.
I want to say I feel like it was pretty mixed as far as reception, and I feel like the budget was relatively low, between like, I don't know, maybe 5 and 10 million.
Okay. the budget, Pete, you were dead on at $30 million.
Wow.
You stuck it. And then the box office, it said, as of looking at it right now, is $68.4 million. It grossed $4 million in the opening day in the United States, opened fourth in the U.S. weekend box office with a gross of $10.2 million. By the end of its worldwide theatrical release, it had grossed over $20 million domestically and $47 internationally, for that total worldwide gross of $68 million. As a domestic release, it finished 114th place during 2008.
So, like, altogether, technically, a success if you go by twice the budget.
Right.
It's like I feel like that's like the rule of thumb. I don't know really what it is. Like they could spend a shit ton in advertising and they really like lost. But I feel like common knowledge tells me it's like twice the budget. Usually it's fine. But I remember it probably way underperformed because I mean in America like that's like the root of the audience, and it only made $20 million. And it was like a big show. Like you had like every week like over 10 million people watching it for like so many years. Like I feel like the numbers were pretty. I mean, I understand it was like network TV during the 90s. You didn't have a lot of competition, but still, you had like millions of people watching.
I think it could have been it was just 10 years after the show ended. It was too long, and they did a movie that people just weren't as excited about it. Because I feel like when the show came back, which was what, in 2015 when they brought the show back? Or 2015, 2016. I think it's actually January 2016. But I felt like there was a way bigger craze for it. Like people were like, oh, they're bringing the X-Files back. And people wanted to watch the show. Then the movie.
I think it works better as a show, I would say, is my take on that. But Lindsay, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, were you gonna go to Defend or Destroy?
I was.
I was just gonna say, before we go there, does anybody have a monster in the closet? That little segment. Anything that really stuck out to them in the movie they wanted to say before we Defend or Destroy?
I really liked that, like, organs thing. I thought that was super creepy. And didn't see that coming. So I think that would be mine. What about you guys?
I don't think I have one. I don't think I have one, honestly.
What about you, Matt?
Well, one thing I found interesting, really, about it was, maybe this is more attuned with thrillers, but I like the parallel that it wasn't really about what's good and evil in this film, but really a struggle of like choices, of what choices you make determine if you're good or evil. Essentially, not just that things are good and evil, because there's the parallel between Scully and the villain in this film, where the villain in the film is doing everything at all costs to keep their husband alive by killing people and putting the organs in his husband. But on the flip side, Scully is doing everything she can to keep this young boy alive that she's had this attachment to. And she's going at all costs. She's going against the administration. She's going to perform this very risky surgery that can be very painful to the kid because she wants to save his life. And I just thought that was a very interesting juxtaposition of those storylines, where one is really your hero and the other is the villain, but they're kind of doing the same. They're trying to save someone they love at all costs, keep them alive.
That is insightful.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Like literally didn't even dawn to me about that.
The like similarities actually that are within the story and the characters.
That was really, I like that aspect. And my second minor monster in the closet is that Exhibit is in this movie. I don't think I can get past that. I have to say that on the podcast. Exhibit from Pimp My Ride was in this film.
I thought I recognized him. I was like, where do I know this guy from? And then I looked it up and it was Exhibit. I was like, oh my god, how did I not realize that was him?
I just hadn't seen Exhibit in years, so it was nice to see his face again.
But Lindsay, why don't you kick it off with Defend or Destroy?
All right, let's do it. So I thought it was pretty decent. As we've covered before, I haven't seen the series at all, so I had nothing to compare it to. I had no background knowledge. As we said, I think it was a good standalone. I don't think that's easy to do when there is a whole series that's already been done with background on the characters. But that being said, I thought it was easy to follow. I like the two main actors. Definitely found it more creepy than scary. But that's kind of, I think, what makes it more of a thriller in this instance. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good, so it's going to be a defend for me.
Nice. Matt?
Sure. As I mentioned in my Monster in the Closet, I really liked that sort of parallel storytelling between Scully and the villain, really kind of putting them together and making it about choices is what really makes you a good or bad person, not just the act itself. I thought it was a good standalone movie, like not knowing really X-Files at all on its own. I thought I would just watch this movie as a thriller, as like a crime thriller with some supernatural elements to it. So I think it had a lot going for it. I will, though, for the sake of the horror podcast, I'm going to destroy X-Files, I want to believe. Don't kill me, Pete. Just because, I guess going into it, I wanted to see maybe more of the alien, more of the supernatural. You had that psychic element, but I was looking for more of those elements, more scary and creepy than the thriller plotline to it. So, and as we said, I think it works better as a show than a full movie. That might be better for it in that sort of setting. But overall, I think it worked as a standalone movie, but I'll destroy X-Files. I want to believe. I know one of my friends who listens to this podcast is going to kill me for that too. So he's a huge X-Files fan.
I'm surprised if like sidetrack, because like I said, fans are not crazy about this movie, and that's interesting to me. I'm gonna surprise you here, Matt. I also destroyed this movie.
Oof.
Get out of
Yeah.
town! Wow.
So it's, I don't know. There's just something off about it to me. It's not like a really bad movie. It's not a bad movie. It just feels like a really long episode of X-Files. And I love the show X-Files, and they don't feel that long. Like, it was just like, they didn't have enough there to make it feel like a movie, so they just felt like a really filler-filled episode that was able to be darker because it was a movie. Like, that aspect is cool, that they were able to be pretty creepy for, like, X-Files, but I think they did more with less in the show, because I think the show has a lot to offer. And I would say, if you had any amount of thing that you liked about the movie, I think you should definitely watch the show. There's a lot going on for it. I'll even give you an example. For me, what got me hooked onto it is that X-Files does a show as an episode. It was a Monster of the Week, and it was like, you remember The Thing, Matt? The Thing, the movie?
Thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They do that storyline. So they go to like some research facility, and I think it's North Pole, I can't really remember. It's really early in season 1, and they like get this weird virus, and they're like trying to figure out like how these people died, and it's just basically that storyline, but X-Files dub. Mm-hmm. And it's a great episode. Like, that's what got me hooked into it.
Okay.
But yeah, it just like you said, like kind of like I wanted the mythology. Like, I wanted that as well. Like, taking that away from the fans, I think is a lot. Like, I think that's why the show, it works. Like, it has both. You have the monster of the week. You have the mythology. You have both.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have a little bit for everyone. Instead of like, oh, we're going to wait 5 extra years and we're not going to answer any of your questions that you've been dying to know.
Yeah, it just seems hard with the show to make a movie sometimes in general. Because with a show, especially like this, you're saying there's monsters of the week, there's the mythology of it, tying it all together. Where if you didn't like what happened this one week, you know next week something's coming that might tie it back together. That's going to bring the story home. With a movie, that's all you get. Especially when they say this is a standalone movie. So you know there's not going to be a continuation from it.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up, 2 destroys and a defend this week for X-Files, I want to believe. Well, with those 2 destroys and defend, that's going to wrap it up here on the Unravels podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We love hearing from you, so get at us on Facebook or Twitter or our website and look for any new content on there. You can listen to us on SoundCloud and anywhere really you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe to us, leave a review. It lets people know where we are. It gets us out there into the universe where people can listen to us. So we appreciate that. Let us know if there's any mini episode ideas or full episode ideas you'd like to do from us. But until then, I am Matt Johnson. I will remain in the shadows.
I'm Peter Hansen, and I don't believe anything that Matt is saying.
I'm Lindsay Clark, and I'll second that.